Hello and welcome to another edition of Kaleidoscope on Channels Television. Many thanks for joining us on our brand and enterprise show. I'm Anne Nwawadu. On the program today, we visit the GlaxoSmithKline office for a chat with the managing director of one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in the world, Olakunle Oyelano, to find out activities and how they're affecting the industry as a whole and the impact of GSK's initiatives on developing the society. Once again, welcome to Kaleidoscope. GlaxoSmithKline is a science-led global healthcare company with a special purpose to help people do more, feel better, live longer, and a goal to be one of the world's most innovative, best-performing, and trusted healthcare companies. Let's find out how their journey began centuries ago.
GlaxoSmithKline is a science-led global healthcare company which boasts of 3 world-leading businesses specialized in research and development and the manufacturing of innovative pharmaceutical medicines, vaccines, and consumer healthcare products. GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Nigeria plc is an affiliate of GlaxoSmithKline Worldwide and was incorporated in Nigeria on the 23rd of June, 1971. It commenced business on the 1st of July, 1972 under the name Beecham Limited. Its head office is located at number 1 Industrial Avenue, Ilupeju, Lagos. In 1977, the company was quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It then expanded its operations in 1982 by establishing an ultra-modern drinks factory at the Agbara Industrial Estate, Ogun State. This expansion includes facilities to manufacture oral healthcare and wellness products. In September 2016, GSK Consumer Nigeria plc concluded the divestment of the drinks business, Lucozade and Ribena, including its bottled water, Hydropure, and transferred ownership to Suntory Beverage and Food Nigeria Limited. The divestment included 65% of the manufacturing site in Agbara, which had the drinks production equipment as a part. The consumer healthcare business in Nigeria retains 35% of the manufacturing facility for the production and packaging of consumer healthcare products like Panadol, Andrew Liver Salt, Maclean's, and Sensodyne. In line with a commitment to continuous improvement, the company regularly upgrades its facilities to meet consumer demand. As a leader in the pharmaceutical industry, GSK says it's committed to further increasing and expanding access to its products with the aim that more people can benefit, irrespective of location, anywhere in the world, without affordability limitations. GSK is also driven with the sole objective of making people to do more, feel better, and live longer. As an organization where employees put value at the heart of everything they do, GSK is inspired by the potential of a valuable health system in the country and the growth and development it brings to the continent at large. In Nigeria, the company is united by its mission and 4 values. With a mission to improve the quality of human life by enabling people to do more, feel better, and live longer, GlaxoSmithKline is determined to make a huge difference in the industry, as well as making a positive impact on the society through its corporate social responsibility initiatives.
To continue the conversation is the Managing Director of GlaxoSmithKline, Olakunle Oyelano. Your history can be traced back to the 1700s, evolving with time, becoming what it is today. In 1971, you were listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I mean, your operation started around that time. But what's the journey been like for GlaxoSmithKline?
Thank you, Anne, and thanks for having me. You are right that globally we've been around for over 300 years. In Nigeria, we've been around for over 50 years, and we've been quoted on the stock exchange for about 50 years. It's been a journey in the last 50 years of commitment to the patients in Nigeria, commitment to the society in which we operate, commitment to the carers for these patients, and of course commitment with all the range of products that we provide in Nigeria. It's also been a journey of trust. We've been known and very well trusted for high quality brands, medicines and consumer care products and vaccines in Nigeria. So I would say it's been a journey, and of course I also commitment to our shareholders. We do have over 28,000 Nigerian shareholders. And one of the things I like to say that though we're a multinational company, we're a global company, but I like to say that in Nigeria, we're a local company with a global heritage.
As one of the top science-led global healthcare companies in Nigeria, how would you describe the industry in the country? And I mean, when you compare it to other parts of the world, how would you describe operations in your industry in Nigeria?
If I look at the overall healthcare landscape in Nigeria, and in particular the pharmaceutical industry, I will say it's evolving. It's rapidly evolving. I would also mention that it's got tremendous potential for growth. If you look at the population of the country, 200 million Nigerians, and catering for their healthcare needs, catering for their needs in various categories really does hold tremendous potential. There might be some challenges right now, but of course I know that they are transient. So overall, I think it's a positive outlook for the industry in Nigeria. For instance, we know that the industry in the last 20 years or so has been steadily growing year on year. There have been bumps here and there on the roads, but I think overall the outlook is positive, because if we look at it versus maybe other markets in the world that has the same population or close to the same population, there is tremendous potential for growth, and we know that the pharmaceutical industry overall can meet the needs of the country.
To improve the quality of life, help people do more. I mean, these are words from your statement on your website. What have you been doing to ensure helping people better and helping improve and develop society?
Very, very good question, Anne. What comes to mind, if I can start with what's probably is very present, COVID-19, that is still very much with us now. And if we look at how we've supported the country, how we've supported healthcare practitioners, how we supported patients in the country during this pandemic period. For instance, as part of our CSR, we've made various donations of PPEs for frontline healthcare workers to make sure that they remain protected amidst the scourge of the pandemic that we have currently. We've made donations to resident doctors all over Nigeria. We've also worked with various sectoral groups, the PMGMA and NAROFAM, to make donations to the federal government in regard to the pandemic. That's one of the areas of our CSR that is very present and immediate. I would go back to one that probably is more long-standing. We have a project that we call the Inspiring Project, which is being executed for us by our partners, Save the Children, where we've committed a grant of about £7.5 million, that's close to 4 billion, to reduce the mortality and morbidity from childhood pneumonia in Nigeria. You may know, for instance, that childhood pneumonia is probably one of the biggest killer diseases of children under 5 in Nigeria, and we've had this grant running for about a couple of years to make sure that we find ways for intervention and reduction of this morbidity and mortality. And in addition to that, recently also, I think sometime last year, apart from the £7.5 million, close to 4 billion that we've given as a grant, we also give an additional 200 million specifically for COVID support, for training in key centers in the north and the southern part of Nigeria, and also for the provision of oxygen. And we do know that that's one of the biggest needs during this period, right? So that's one of the things that we were doing. Over time also, we've also supported various orphanages. Our staff have been doing that. We as a corporate organization have also been doing that, supporting a number of orphanages as part of our CSR. I would also mention there's quite a number of things that we do in this regard. One of the things I would mention again is in addition, of course, to providing our very high quality medicines, we are fundamentally a research and development organization producing innovative medicines. So we make sure that our medicines are available in Nigeria, and in the same quality, I will speak that the same quality you find in the US, you find in Europe. That's what we have also in Nigeria. One of the things we've also done, in addition to providing that, we've also worked with various organizations to improve the standard of care for the management of diseases in Nigeria. What comes to mind readily is that we had a national launch of what the first guideline on the management of epilepsy in Nigeria. We worked with the International League Against Epilepsy, working through the Nigerian Society for Neurosciences to launch the very first guideline for the management of epilepsy. And that was just, I think, a couple of months ago. And that kind of impact, that kind of activity, that kind of support to the healthcare landscape is not new to us. We've done this before also. Again, the very first guideline for the management of asthma in Nigeria was also actually by us. We worked with Nigerian Thoracic Society some years ago to launch that. Again, in terms of improving the standard of care in Nigeria, we worked with National Association of Urological Surgeons in Nigeria to launch again the first guideline standard of care for the management of benign prostatic hyperplasia in Nigeria. So many of these things are things that come naturally to us in terms of a mandate of ensuring that people are able to do more, feel better, and live longer. Even with the advent of COVID, we were one of the first organizations that actually went to town in terms of educating the healthcare professionals on some of the management principles for COVID. We've had a number of webinars and seminars regarding this. And for instance, even for our oral healthcare, we are present in various categories: vaccines, consumer healthcare, and pharmaceuticals. For our consumer healthcare organization, we also educate people on oral healthcare. We more or less the concept of public education on dentine hypersensitivity. We actually the first to talk about that in Nigeria. We are also one of the largest private sector employers of pharmacists in the country. And being mindful of that position that we hold, we pay particular attention to developing future leaders in the healthcare space. One of the ways we do this is making sure that we continue to build capacity in for both pharmaceutical professionals and also doctors in the healthcare space. We do this through various means and various initiatives that we deploy.
GSK recently announced a manufacturing partnership with a leading local manufacturing company. I mean, how is this partnership going at the moment? What's the progress been like, and what are the prospects of partnerships like this one in the pharmaceutical industry in the country?
Thank you very much, Anne. Yes, we announced a partnership, a collaboration with one of the leading local manufacturers to transit some of the manufacturing of our brands that we currently manufacture locally to our collaborators in the local Nigerian space. And we've made good progress over the last 2 years in terms of building the capacity of the local manufacturer, in terms of making sure that they're able to adopt global best practices. And I must quickly mention that we've been supported all along the way by the regulator of the industry, NAFDAC, in making sure that these global best practices we're able to bring to Nigeria, and not just bring to Nigeria, we're able to embed within one of our local manufacturers. And I must say also that we are also open with further collaboration with other manufacturers as we see fit. And I think it's very, very important really in the context of improvement or improving the local pharma industry. For instance, you may be aware that the pharmaceutical sector, for instance, contributes less than 1% to the GDP of the country. And that's because we don't really see it where the pharmaceutical industry probably just serves only the local market. Hardly would you find any local manufacturer exporting. But what we're doing currently with the people we're collaborating with locally, we're going to have a situation with all the capacity building that we've done, with all the quality management systems we've put in place. We're going to have a situation where you are bringing the global stamp of quality of a multinational like us onto a local manufacturer. And that is going to open doors. What do I mean it's going to open doors? It's probably in line with the export agenda of the government. And again, it will enable our local manufacturer, especially the one we're working with currently, to be able to export beyond Nigeria. And again, for me to also acknowledge that the support that the central bank governor has given to the local pharma industry in this regard in terms of provision of funds. You may be aware of the 100 billion healthcare intervention fund by the central bank governor. It has enabled a number of these local manufacturers to retool. It has provided working capital for them. It has enabled them to improve some of the standards. So that's really very, very good intervention. And also in that regard, also the regulator of the industry, that's NAFDAC, is also doing pretty well, working on a framework for contract manufacturing, which is what we're doing with the local manufacturing. That framework did not exist before this time. As a matter of fact, us in GlaxoSmithKline, we are about the leading company actually driving this. And what we're doing currently is probably one of the largest tech transfers in the pharma industry.
We're not done just yet. We'll be back in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Kaleidoscope on Channels Television. We continue the conversation now with the GSK boss, Olakunle Oyelano, to find out the impact the organization is making in the industry and the future plan to drive development in the country. With the current focus on African regional integration, how do you think the Nigerian pharmaceutical industry can actually stay competitive, especially improving local manufacturing in the country? And of course, what can the government do to support this drive?
That's a good question, Anne. And I must say that this integration you're talking about, especially within the context of the AFCTA, does present a very good opportunity for growth for the Nigerian pharma industry. And probably one of the best opportunities for harnessing and unlocking these growth opportunities for the local industry is one of the things that we're currently doing, our contract manufacturing partnership. Collaboration with one of the local manufacturers. It does enable, like I mentioned, it does enable, it opens new doors for some of our local manufacturers when they have the global stamp of quality from a company like us. We bring in a global best practices and combining it with the capacity of the local manufacturers. And to the point that's been made also, I know the CBN has been very, very supportive of this. One of the things that you may be aware of, there's a CBN grant. In addition to the 100 billion naira grant for manufacturers, there's also a grant for research and development. One of the things this will do would be to enable some kind of backward integration, so such that a number of the raw materials that would be otherwise imported can be sourced locally. Again, this supports the agenda we've spoken about, that the government is trying to diversify the source of foreign exchange for the country. So I really do think that this integration is something that we should look forward to. And one of the best opportunities, quickest opportunities really to harness this is to encourage the kind of collaboration that is currently going on between us, a global manufacturer, and some of the local players in the industry. Because it does have a number of advantages, significant advantages in the immediate term and even the long term for the country.
Taking a look at the budget for healthcare in Nigeria, do you think the government is doing well in this regard or paying enough attention to this sector?
It's an interesting question you asked, and I do know that the Abuja Declaration of, I think, 2001 prescribes a certain level of a certain percentage of the national budget being devoted to healthcare. But I also know that this prescription, as it were, is aspirational. I'm sure most governments will desire to meet it, but might not be able to, at least in the immediate. Because if you look at it, there are always competing priorities for the budget items for the funds of government. In a particular situation like ours, for instance, we know we have security competing, we have education, we have agriculture, and a number of other things. So in as much I know that government would want to devote more funds to healthcare, we need to look at it within the context of the constrained resources that we have. But I do think government is making very good efforts in terms of one of the reforms that have been carried out in the NHRS, the National Health Insurance Scheme, the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund that they're doing in a number of ways. So these are some of the things that I know that government is doing. There is still further scope for collaboration between government and the private sector in further improving the healthcare landscape. And I'm sure as we go forward, this will also be considered.
So we know about the health deficit in Nigeria. Is research one of your strategies, or do you prioritize research as an organization?
Absolutely, Anne. From our heritage as a research and development company, even in Nigeria, we do have a very strong presence in R&D, in research and development. I could give a few instances across some of the areas where we're present in anti-infectives, in HIV, in asthma. We've done research across these various sectors, working with various independent researchers across Nigeria. One of the ones that come to mind is a multi-center research that we sponsored recently with a researcher an independent researcher from Abuja. And the result of that was actually published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is one of the most reputable journals for healthcare in the world. And again, we've done research in vaccines also. We've done research to determine the prevalence of asthma in Nigeria. We've done research in surveying the level of antibiotic resistance in the country. So yes, it's probably one of our key agenda to continue to support researchers in whatever way we can. Where a number of these are done independently, we support them with grants, and some have been sponsored by us.
We know the beginning, we know the journey so far. Let's talk about the future, plans for the future as an organization. What's the future looking like for GlaxoSmithKline?
Thank you very much. The past, as you know, up to this moment has been a journey of leadership for us in Nigeria across the various sectors where we operate, in vaccines, in consumer healthcare, in oral healthcare, in pain management, in antibiotics and asthma, and neurology. And it's been a current journey of impacting the lives of patients, of shaping the healthcare environment, and building capacity across the country within the healthcare space where we operate. I'm sure the next 50 years will be better. We globally and also in Nigeria, we know that we will continue to be one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in the world and in Nigeria, present in general medicines, present in oncology, present in respiratory. And we're looking forward to continue to impact the life of patients. We're looking forward to continue to be ambitious for patients and making sure that we do the right thing by the environment that we operate.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Kaleidoscope. You can catch up with past editions of the program. Very simple. Go to youtube.com/channelsweb, click on playlist, then go to Kaleidoscope and watch as many times as you want. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Anne Nwaodo. I'll see you again soon.